Thank you, everyone, for showing up on day three. One more day is officially left, and you could be anywhere else and decide to share it with me. So I hope that I can continue to serve and that we can grow and learn together. Some of you have shared your homework assignments. Some of you haven't. I'm just hoping that you decide to do that and put it inside the Facebook group so that we can connect with each other and sort of see what we've been learning and learn together. So welcome to day three. Let me share my screen and we can get started. Bam. So welcome to day three of the Launch with Pride Challenge. We're helping LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs create a custom marketing strategy plan that you could use in your business for Pride season. A little recap of yesterday, we talked about your product or your offer. And yes, so here's a quick summary. It needs to solve a problem or more than one problem for your customer. It's more than just the product or service. And we talked about ways you can add to that, like using bonuses so that you can help your customers succeed and be the true hero of that journey. And thinking of ways for you to align your product or offer with your vision and your values so that it is more authentic and easier for you to share and promote. So, day three, the goal of today will be pride in your people. My slide's not there, but earlier when I was talking about marketing, the idea was, what do you serve? What do you sell? What is your service? How do you do that? And who is it for? So today we're focusing on that one question: who is it for? How to define them and how to narrow that down. Because the main goal is at the end of this all, your strategy will be based on these questions, the different assignments that we've been giving and going through. So by having a better understanding of who you're serving, it'll help you decide how to reach them and how to make sure that they can connect back to you as well. So let's get started on day three. So I like alliteration, so a lot of these slides have a lot of that. But there are a couple pitfalls that people usually run into when trying to define their ideal client or their target audience. The biggest pitfall of all is thinking that you can serve everyone. How do I say? I believe that we are in an abundant world and that there is enough for everyone. And if you had 8 billion clients tomorrow, you probably could not serve them. Even if you had 1,000 clients tomorrow, you might not be able to do that. So the main thing is thinking of how can you focus on the people who you have the most impact on, who you can serve the most, who actually has the problems that you help solve. Yeah. Another pitfall that when it comes to it is being high level. A lot of people in different groups I've been a part of are like, I serve only women or only men or only something else. And it's like, that's cool, but that's still billions of people, or at least millions of people. So thinking of how you can get deeper in that. And then the third one is a lack of authority or connection. The word authority is a little bit weird, but basically, sometimes you may not be able to connect to the people you want to serve, and they may not be able to develop that know, like, and trust to work with you. Similarly with authority, if you are new to a space or new to a set of people, they may not resonate with you because they don't know you and they don't believe you can help them. A quick story is I'm a part of a civic hacking group. And in one of our last meetings, people were talking about coming up with a tech chatbot for lawyers, for the law. So if somebody needed help with something, they can go to this chatbot and say, here's my situation, and it could give them not legal advice, but educational legal responses. And when I was sitting around with the team, we were thinking of what we should do first, what's next. And I was like, does anybody know the law? is anyone here a lawyer? And like, no one was. So when we're thinking about what this product can do, we're not actually being informed by people with the experience or understanding. So with that last one, it's thinking of, where do I have authority in a space? Where am I connected to a space? So that if I do serve them, I can actually help and not just be there. So at the beginning of this challenge, I wasn't sure of where it was going to go. But it's called the Launch with Pride Challenge. And I feel like I've been sharing different parts of my coming out journey. And I think I have a good story that sort of ties into this one. So I mentioned before, I grew up in a religious environment, and that was all of the community that I was a part of until I graduated college. I talked about different steps along that journey, sort of connecting with people and seeing a vision of what a queer life can look like. And then another story of connecting with people and feeling more community and affinity with other people in our space. But one of my values is also spirituality. And I grew up in this Christian environment, and there's still something there that's greater. And when I would talk to people, they would talk to other parts of me, but they never really talked to that part. And then one time I was in Atlanta at their gay bookstore, because I used to have one back in 2008-ish or 7-ish. And I found this book. It's called Stranger at the Gate by Mel White. He is a Catholic speechwriter. He worked with a lot of evangelical Christian people and would ghostwrite their books. But he was also gay, and then he wrote this book, and I came across it, and it sort of spoke to me because it talked about that spiritual lens. And in the book, there was one specific line in a chapter that I remember, and it was basically, he was thinking about wanting to come out, but not being able to, because he was like, what would my grandmother say? And when I read that line, it was like, I thought that same exact line. The relationship I had with my grandmother at the time was something that meant to me. Well, it was deep, and she was like the matriarch of our family. And by reading that book and hearing that thought that was already in my head, but put on a piece of paper with someone else going through the same journey and connecting to that value of mine, that sort of helped me be able to say, okay, this is speaking to other parts of me to help me move forward. And I think what that has to do with this conversation is, it wasn't just a book. It wasn't just a Christian book. It wasn't just the family, but also the thoughts. So it was like all of these different parts that aligned with the person I was, and that helped that book be a good stepping stone in my journey. So when it comes to entrepreneurship and our businesses, the idea is, how can we speak to the other people in the world just like that, who we are meant to serve? So as we continue this, I want you to all to just be thinking about that, how we can go deeper, because the deeper we can understand people, the easier we can serve them and actually have solutions that can help. So what's next? This is a framework given by Dean Graziosi, who does a lot of business work with, what's the guy's name? Tony Robbins. And he calls it the dot. And the idea is, there's billions of people in the world, and the more narrow you can get, the easier it is for you to focus on your solution and for you to update your offer, update your messaging, so that it can stand out to these people. So the idea is to go as deep as you can. So starting super broad and finding different descriptors or ways to narrow that down so that you can speak directly to the person. So this is an empty version of that. And the next version is one that is set up. So the idea was, somebody was an artist and they want to teach art to people. And when it comes to art, there are billions of people who like art who will talk about that. So you're not being very specific. So the next step was painting creatively and with spontaneity. So the idea of that part is like, okay, it's not a structured paint by numbers, or we're like, doing a specific picture and just recreating it, but it's being more creative and spontaneous. And then to go even deeper, they were like using water-based paints. So not oil-based paints, not coloring pencils or crayons. And then getting even more narrow for new artists. So not artists who are already established. And then to go even deeper, they're like, who want to do this with their kids so that they can keep that bond up. So if you were to think about an ad, if you were to think about something that you were promoting, a message, that first one, I teach art. And that's great, but like I teach art for people who are looking to be creative and spontaneous using water-based paint, for new artists who want to connect with their teenagers. Just by having that, you're already like creating the story in your mind. You're creating this picture. And if you fit that picture, if you had a teenager and you liked art, or your teenager liked art, and you wanted to keep that bond connected, you would say, this is speaking to me. And it'd be so much easier for you to go and make that and take that next step. So the goal of today is to help you all get from general to niche to narrow. Yeah, so we get to start. I'm actually gonna go to the next slide because this one's easier. So where do we start? Here are a couple external qualities that we can bring up when it comes to defining that dot, defining our ideal client, defining our people. So one, when you think of your services, if I can see who's here right now, we've got all of our people. Here are some ways you can think about things from the external side. So when it comes to any of these, which one of these stand out for the people that you serve with your travel agency, or your financial services, or your civic engagement? And the goal is to get as narrow as possible so that you can create a message that resonates deeper. So I'm gonna throw that out there, and you can just put something in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this in the Facebook group. And I'll wait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some of the homework that was turned in, that was done. Oh, sorry about that. As you're looking at this, when you think about the clients you serve, how could you answer any of these questions? What locations are you able to serve the most? Or what locations of people in what places can use your offer or your product? So if you are a travel agent, are there certain locations, either where people are from right now or that people want to go to, that stand out? Are there certain ages that tend to work with you, that tend to be easier to work with, or that tend to be for better customers in a way? Are there people who have reached a certain education level or not that might need your services more? Are there income or financial situations that help define the people you serve? And females, males, everyone in between on the gender spectrum or outside of that, are there people who resonate more with how you do your business? So question, yeah, so that's sort of the question. So I think these are some of the semi-easy ones. For example, the financial services person, people closer to retirement versus people starting their career. They both can be helped and be served by you, but who might be able to be served better? And who might be ready for that? For example, there might be someone who's just getting out of college, who has a lot of student debt, who doesn't think about retirement because that is way in the future. So for you to spend more time trying to market to them or to reach them, you might not get that big of a return. Whereas if you're getting someone who's in that middle stage of life where I know retirement is a lot closer and I need to truly know where my money is going so that I can be prepared for this thing that is 10, 25 years in the future. You can see how that message is two separate messages. And if you went to both of those people and said, your future matters, come to me, they both might not hear you because you're not getting that level of depth. Yeah. And when we're talking about this, one of the things I want to make sure you think about is it doesn't mean you can never serve these people. It just means that when it comes to marketing, when it comes to trying to attract the people, you're going to have to focus so that they can see themselves in your message. And sometimes you can't reach both of them with all types of people with one message. Okay, so we've got something. So an app could help people who have no background in law to learn how they can change the rule book. That's fair. That's fair. So that's close to the education one. So that would be something for non-law school types of people. People who want to learn that, but also depending on, like, the easiest one possible is, English speaking countries. I don't know how many languages you all speak, but I sadly only know English. So anyone I can serve, I can only serve them if they speak English, right? Because if they spoke another language, I would not be able to communicate. I would not be able to serve at a high level. And that's just a very simple example. Yeah, and if you speak other languages, now you can say, all right, maybe I want to talk to families who are multilingual. I can serve them all because I can speak the different languages in that household. So the main idea is thinking about how you can get your message across so that it lands. So yeah, so these are just some types of external qualities. And this is just like for that first pass. And I'm going to go to the previous slide because that was the much more fun ways to figure out things. And it's these psychographics and internal qualities. So when it comes to these are more, internal brain things, feeling things. So when you think about your clients, like what might they be interested in terms of the app to get people's feedback on current bills in Congress. These might be people who are interested in politics, interested in advocacy, interested in social justice, interested in that. When it comes to travel, you might have people who are interested in maybe even learning other languages, as we were talking about just now, or interested in new cultures, interested in seeing the world, interested in food. Yeah, so because the idea is the more you can understand this person that you're speaking to, the easier it is to speak to them. So what are those types of interests that might work for the people you're reaching out to? Second, there's like goals So we sort of talked about this yesterday, but like, what is it that they want? The person who wants to, when it comes to finances, the person who wants to buy a house is different from the person who wants to retire early. It's different from the person who wants to save up for a cruise. It's different from the person who is living paycheck to paycheck and wants that to stop, right? Like all of that is those are 4 different types of people, all having a goal that you as a financial services provider can help them achieve. But you have to sort of, they may not be thinking that when they look at you. So if you're putting out a message out there, you might have to say more specifically, if you're going for someone who's maybe just out of college, it could be your path to home ownership and paying off your debt without giving up X, Y, and Z. Or, you know, if they're later in life, it's how to plan your retirement so that you can like travel and live the rule, like you've worked your whole life and now you get to finally have fun. You get to put that money to work, put that effort, that investment into this other thing. For the app, in terms of political engagement, we know that there are a lot of bad laws popping up around the country. Here's how you can see what's going on and make a difference. Here's how you can show your elected representative your true feelings, and so that they can change the law, because you want a world that is more just. So things like that. And then on the other side of that, there's the fears. What are people afraid of? I know that right now with my grandmother at her age, there's the ideas of like long-term care insurance that we wish we had. And that is changing the situation for my uncle, who is her main caregiver. There's the idea of someone who's going to retire, and it's like, do I have enough? Do I have to work till I'm 70 something because I don't have enough at this early 60s? Yeah, I don't have enough at that point in time. If someone's traveling, can I travel alone? Are cruises safe? How do I get my vacation? What are the fears that they might have? Because part of the idea is if you can speak to that, they can listen, because we're not just, people aren't just making a decision based out of nowhere. They're basing it off of who they are. So like, if you know what their interests are, their goals are, their fears, you can speak to that and you can overcome those. You can connect on their interests, support their goals, and allay their fears. And again, these other 2 questions we talked about yesterday, but now trying to make them more specific. So as we get specifics on, if you, for example, for finances, if you want to stick to people over 50, right? So they're much closer to retirement, that might be the main financial objective that they have. I'm not sure because I don't do this. But if that is the thing, now it's like, if you're 50s, what are the problems you might have when it comes to your finances? Like if you're younger, you might think, I can change my career. I can go back to school and start a new career. If someone's in their 50s, they might not think that's available. We're still open to them. So thinking of what problems do they have based on who they are and what they want. And again, similarly with what outcomes do they want? When it comes to the travel, if you're talking to someone younger, they just might want a nicer Instagram thing, right? They see all their other friends posting these great pictures on Instagram, having all the fun of their lives. And yes, travel is about having fun, but it's also about, I want to post these cool pictures so that people can see that I'm a cool person. So thinking about that person and then seeing what do they actually want, so that you can communicate to them, here's how I'm going to help you get the thing that you want. Here's how I'm going to help you overcome the problem that you have. Yeah. And let's see what this next one is. So one of my mentors says this and says, carve a niche so tight, only you can fit inside. And niche is just another way of saying ideal client or audience. So if you are able to understand them that much, right? Like everybody can serve them. Everyone can do financial services. Lots of people can do travel. But if you choose a certain group of people, then it gets smaller and smaller. And then they'll be like, you're the only one who's speaking to all these different parts of me. This person is speaking to me just in travel. This person's speaking to me just to on cruises only. This person is speaking to me in this way. But as you get closer, it's like, oh, you're the only one that's really speaking to me. They're all speaking to everybody else. Here's how I stand out. Yeah, and I think the goal of today is to say that there's this pride, this idea of pride, right? Like we get to be pride in who we are. And when we're able to narrow down and make that person feel like they are directly being talked to, we can show that we actually care about them because we actually took the time to understand them and to figure out, here's a solution that works for you. I'm not just telling everyone. I'm telling you specifically for these reasons. They're still going to have their own reasons, but if you knock down 9 of the 10 things stopping their way, stopping them from making the next step, it's a lot easier. And they don't have to do that. They don't have to go through that process. Like when we looked at the marketing funnel, there are steps they have to go through. And the more you can speak to all of the different things going on in their head, it's like, oh, you already answered the question before I asked it. What about this thing? And you're like, oh, I already have the answer for you. That's here, that's here, that's here. And they're just running out of reasons to want to work with you. So thinking about how we can make that as small as possible so that you can stand out in that place and you can serve them at a highest level. So how can we know our people more authentically? And again, we're going to go back to values. So if we can think of what their values are, how can we speak to those values productively? I have a friend who does contactless business cards, and sometimes he's just talking about it. But one of the last times we were talking, he was like, yeah, they're made out of bamboo because I want us to be a more sustainable world. And bamboo is one of the most sustainable products you can have. And that's really important. And then he went off on a tangent and talked about his vision. He's like, one day I want to like help make a computer that is all biodegradable. It's like made out of bamboo and has like cactus thing or just whatever. I'm like, I can't imagine that at all, but I'm glad you have the vision and you are actually wanting to make that a reality. But he's speaking to those values. And I was like, yeah, you need to like go to an environmental conference and be like, I have got the most sustainable business cards possible. So like speaking to their values, because that'll tell you where to put your efforts. Also, what are the beliefs that people have? I have many beliefs, and one of my beliefs that I'm trying to really live into is that people are doing the best they can based on how they believe. If you tell someone, and if you're a financial representative, and someone doesn't think that retirement is for them, they don't think they can ever retire or find a way, they're not going to want to be there with you, right? They're not going to connect when you say, you can do it. I'm gonna give you a plan for that. They're going to be like, nope, heard it before. None of my parents, none of my family, none of the people around me have a retirement, and we all just figure it out or die early or life insurance of somebody else. But if you can understand what some of those beliefs are, you might be able to bring them in and connect with them on that. I think they're like, and this is like going a little bit deeper because like, what do we really believe? Like for me, my coming out process, because I grew up Christian, that I had some of those beliefs and still hold on to some of them. So I needed someone to be able to speak to that within me so that I can make that case, right? So it's like thinking about what those beliefs are, and also thinking of the good ones and the bad ones. Some people might believe this isn't for me, right? I can't make a difference in the world. If I make a comment on this bill, nothing's ever going to change anyway. Politicians are all bad. There are no good ones. No one wants to do what's good. So they may look at the thing and say, yeah, I can see the bills and give my opinion. But if they don't believe anyone's going to take that opinion, they're not going to do the next step. So it's like, how can I meet them where that belief is? And then either speak to that directly or give them, or just, how do I say it best? give up on them. There are some people, like let's say a lobbyist, right? A lobbyist may not want more people to have input on the political process because that is against their business model. So like if you were to try to tell lobbyists, hey, go invest in this app so that more of the people can have a say in their government, there's a values, there's a belief difference that's not going to be able to cross, probably. It might, but for the most part, that might not work. Or you might have to work with specific lobbyists that are trying to, lobby on behalf of the people versus on the behalf of certain corporations. So thinking about what those beliefs are will help you know where to focus. And then this third one, role models. Part of this comes through because, I may not know you, but if I respect someone else and you respect that other person, okay, we have something in common. The people who like Tucker Carlson look up to him for whatever reasons. So if you're trying to market to them, you may also have to look into him or like take the good things about that person. The people who look towards Michelle Obama, similarly, and it's all just role models that we have, these famous people who are around. And if you can show how this person's beliefs, this person's ideal is shown somehow in one of your products, in one of your services, then they can say, oh, I also like listening to this person. I also believe in that podcast. I also like that show or that actor. And there's a way to develop that connection. Because at the end of the day, part of marketing is just people are more likely to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So how do you get people to know you? How do you get people to like you? How do you get people to trust you? Part of it is by you knowing them, liking them, and trusting them as well. So it's like, how can I connect with you, better understand you? And then this last thing, what do they like to do for fun? There are many ways to market. And I believe the other day, Callie, went too far. The other day, Callie was saying something and mentioned business cards was your current marketing strategy in a way. Like when you go places, you might give people business cards. If you know who your customers are, you can show up in the places where they like to be for fun, and you can connect with them, and those business cards will go a lot further. If you're trying to get those first users and okay, these people tend to go to these types of meetups or these type of art shows, here's where I can put myself where they are so that I can have those connections. I can talk to them, understand their needs better, understand what they would want, understand those outcomes. Because I think some of these questions that I've asked, there may not be a lot of good answers to at the moment. You may not have them, I may not have them. And that just might be a place for, okay, I'm going to put a pin on that and do some more market research. But at least you can think about that and go back to that and like use this as a resource. So it's like, okay, I want to be where people are having fun, and these are the type of people I want to serve. Here's how I'm going to meet them there. And then this is also just a little hack in a way. If you ever go the route of Facebook or Google ads, Facebook and so when you're using paid ads, they will take your money. If you tell Facebook spend $20 a day, Facebook will spend $20 a day. But what Facebook also does, it allows you to target. They allow you to say, choose people of this age and this place who have kids or not having kids, who do many different roles, and sort of these questions about the interests and their values and their role models. Last year, they changed a lot of the targeting we could do. So a lot of the queer targeting, so like queer studies or LGBTQ pride or equality in certain ways, were taken off because they didn't want people to misuse that. So now it got harder. But if I know their role models and what queer people like to do for fun, instead of looking up queer studies, I might look up RuPaul's Drag Race or RuPaul or Elliot Page or other specific well-known role models in the queer community because if people like that person, there's a better chance that they are connected to the people I want to serve. So by thinking about what they do for fun and what the role models are, it's a little hack to be able to leverage a tool like Facebook, even as they change what they allow you to target on. And that's like a really, if you run paid ads, that is a key thing, because you know, when I ran ads for this challenge in the previous time, yeah, the first time I ran it, it was amazing. I put a New York Pride parade, I put up Stonewall Bar, I put up all these things, and then I tried to run it again, and they were like, you can't use any of these at all. So it was like, I need to come back to the drawing board and think, okay, how do I reach queer people? How do I reach queer people? And focusing on some of the role models, and some of the things we like to do for fun, that sort of helped me out a little bit. And that also helps you know your people, right? When you're talking to them, when you're choosing pictures, when you're choosing how you want to market, when you're thinking of a social media post, these are all little ways you can tap into. So it's like, I can use lines from RuPaul's Drag Race. I can use beliefs that might be there. I can post about RuPaul's Drag Race just in general. And the people who resonate with that post, it's like, okay, you watch, you see what's going on. And that's ways for you to know them more authentically, and you can show your own stuff, right? If there are certain people you have as role models, you know, why are they your role models? Might your customers also have them as a role model? So those are some questions and tips to help you get to know your and then define that ideal client more authentically. So, summary of today. Oof, that was not a good slide. I am just gonna stop sharing really fast and just speak to you all as I look at what the slide should say. So part one, if you serve everyone, you may not be serving anyone. It takes time to get there. If you are Apple or Nike or I don't know, football league or national basketball, NBA, like all of those people, they've built a brand that's big enough to just be well known. But if you're a small business, if you are even a medium-sized business, there are many people who may not know who you are. So you have to like let them know that you're serving them. So you can't serve everyone. Next thing that we've talked about, choosing a specific set of people. So when it came to like the financial services, part of it, you know, if you choose to focus on people right out of college, it's so much easier to say, what are their needs and their specific problems? And then you can speak to that. If you choose to focus on people in retirement age or before retirement age, what are their needs? What are they looking for? And it makes your message a lot easier because you can focus on, here's the problems you have right now, and here are the solutions. If I'm right out of college and you're giving me retirement level solutions, it's not going to resonate. You know, you might be wasting both of our times. So thinking about how can I focus on that set of people. Next, when it comes to the demographics and how you define that, how you find these descriptors, yes, you can use these high level descriptors that are physical attributes. Where I live, the language I speak, where I live, the language I speak, my age, my education, my finances. One of the things about finances is, you know, if you're marketing to someone who is if you're trying to find, if you have a high ticket solution, and you're marketing to people who can't afford you, there's a misalignment there. You know, even if they met all the other criteria, if they can't afford the product that you're selling, that you're serving, your offer, they're not going to be able to buy. So sometimes it's like, how do you make sure that your costs align, your price aligns with the people you are serving? And also at the end of the day, by keeping that in front of mind, you can decide how your business works. Like you can have a thing that says, I'm focusing this on college, just recent graduates, and I'm focusing this other thing on people closer to retirement. I'm focusing this on people who are making over 6 figures. I'm focusing this on people who are not. And that way you can focus more on that and they will see, hey, you're looking at me. And then also internal qualities and identities. The person who buys a Lamborghini is not the person who buys a Prius. And there are certain people who will never buy a Lamborghini and they will get that Prius because it means something to them. It attaches to a value, it attaches to part of their identity. And that is something to like think about. Like, what identity do people have that you can tap into so that you can better get to know? There are certain people who are a certain brand of Christian who are like, I will only want to do business with Christian people. And there are certain people who will be like, I will never do business with Christian people. And if you realize that there's a place that you're going that has one or the other, you can then figure out what is the message that needs to be there for these people. Yeah, so thinking about those internal qualities, what are the things that we want out of life? What are those values that we have? What are our beliefs? Yes, say you have a plug-in hybrid car that connects with your value of sustainability. And that is important, you know, if, I don't know what kind of hybrid it is, but let's say it was a Prius. If Toyota Prius. Yeah, so Toyota said, hey, get this new vehicle because it's a truck and it's not sustainable and it's gas powered. And I don't know what else they would talk about with cars, but you would be like, that's not for me. They're talking to someone else. But when they mention the Prius and they mention how quiet it is and they mention miles per gallon and the world and the environment, and they show pictures that are more sustainable and eco-friendly, you might say, maybe I do need a new Prius, or that car connects with me. And similarly, your business, the product you offer, it may not be a hybrid car, but how does that value show up in how you talk about finances, right? How can I connect that to people? What does that mean for where they want to live, how they want to live, how they want to retire, their money goals? What does that look like? Yeah. So I think those were some of the main things. I think there was one more thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember. Yeah, and then also the role models and values. The more you're able to have people connect with people where they are, the easier it is. Yeah, so actually, this is a story. I have my grandfather. I used to suck my finger all the time growing up. Eventually I stopped. But everybody would always try different things. It's like, don't do it, Justin. Just, you know, they like, maybe we'll put pepper in your finger or we'll like something else or anything. And what my grandfather did one time, he was like, hey, I get it. You suck your finger. Here's a bag of wipes. There's like a little travel set of wipes. So at least if you're going to suck your finger, you can like make sure it's clean before you put it in your mouth. And I love that memory of my grandfather because in a way he saw me. He saw that, okay, there's this thing that Justin does and it's different and everyone's trying to stop, but hey, if Justin's going to suck his finger, I would rather him not pick up any germs, or not pick up any things. And like in that moment, like that is how I experienced love from my grandfather. He's like, I'm going to see where you are. I'm going to see the things you do. And I'm going to see that there are some problems there. And I'm going to offer a solution that meets you where you are instead of, you know, just telling me, don't do the thing. And I think when it comes to our businesses, and especially when it comes to marketing and some of us who are in these roles where we're really trying to help and serve, we have to meet people where they are and help them do the things that they already believe in so that they can just do that next step and make it as easy as possible for them. And I think it's much easier said than done. There are a lot of times when, you know, we don't end up doing that. There are a lot of times when we are like, look at my product, it's amazing, it's going to help you, right? I can help you right here. Why aren't you here? And it's because we don't really see them, and they don't know that we see them. When we talk to them, it's like we're talking to anyone. And if we're talking to anyone, then they're going to be like, cool, that's not for me. We're just going to go somewhere else. So, cool. I'm just going to actually do something a little different this time with the homework. And I'm just going to bring it up. So the homework, as every day, there is a worksheet. And here is the link. Open my screen up. Here's the link to the worksheet. And we're going to go there, share. Cool. So usually I put a subset of the questions in the final slide, but not today. So again, thinking about the people we can serve the best. So what are the specific problems they have? I think that's always a good start. Then what are the outcomes that they want? Because again, we're focusing on that specific person. And maybe these questions should come at the end, but like, who are the people who need the solution we are giving? What gender spectrum might they be in those external demographics? What age range or age scenario might they be in? Languages they speak, what countries can we serve? You know, what states, locations can we serve? Some professions can only operate state by state based on their qualifications. Thinking of how you can narrow that down. Because let's say I can only serve people in the Northeast, pictures of Florida might be a little different. If they're in the Northeast, we have seasons that are sort of consistent. So like, how can I leverage the season we're in to speak to my potential customers? If you're in Florida, holiday season travel is a little different than if you're in New York. So it's like, do I know where my people are? Am I speaking to them? Other internal characteristics, relationship status. Is someone married, single, divorced? These are all different types of relationships, connected with their parents, disconnected from their family. There are all these different types of relationship statuses. So if I can think of the problems they might have, or, a widowed person's financial situation may be different than someone who just got married, maybe different than someone who's single. Those are all ways to think of how can I go deeper and understand this person that I can serve best. Locations, race and ethnicity. There are different experiences we have in the world. So if we are speaking to people with different experiences, how can we be not just culturally sensitive or unoffensive, but how can we say, as a person who has to deal with these struggles, I've looked into those struggles, I understand those struggles, and here's how I'm going to give you a solution that sees all of you, that encompasses those struggles. And sexual orientation. Us in the queer community, we experience the world differently. So if we are being served, if someone wants to serve us, how do we include that? Sometimes people are like, I identify as gay, but that's only one small, tiny part of me. And I get that, but also, depending on where you are in the US, it may be easier or harder for you to find community. There may be laws targeting you right now. So it's like, how do you find community? How do you experience the world? And it does change because I identify as gay. If someone were to talk to me and they were to mention, come out to my event, it's at random place outside of town, far away from all the queer bars that I would go to. And, I might not be as intrigued to go. If one of the queer bars were being sold, or there was an issue there, I might care a lot more and say, yeah, let me help keep this place in business. I was talking to someone who's developing an app to help people find queer businesses, or at least queer-friendly businesses. And he mentioned how he's in Florida, and one time he had someone come in, like a plumber or something, came into his space to fix the issue. And then the plumber started talking about how his daughter was a lesbian and they don't talk anymore, and he's against her and all this stuff. And he sort of just had to deal with that because he already like ordered the service. The person's already in their house. There was already a prepayment on the solution. So sometimes reaching out to the people who can provide us. Yeah, he was in his own house and he felt unsafe because this person was helping him do the thing. So thinking about how our characteristics might actually change the way we make an offer. Some beliefs, so like faith, spiritualize, political beliefs, other beliefs like environmentalists, vegan, vegetarianism. And, you know, speaking to those are really important because, again, you're wanting people to, we have the solutions that they need, right? We know the things that we do and we know the value they can provide. And that's why we started yesterday or the day after yesterday, whatever. Yesterday we were talking about the value that we provide, the problems that we solve. We know that they're important. So how do we help people connect to those? Yes, you hate that we have to go through that. And yeah, and that's a reality. And like, I'm lucky, I live in DC. I also live in a building, so I don't have to invite external people into my house. But, you know, when I think about some of these laws in different parts of the country that aren't as progressive, I don't know. And when this person shared that story with me, I was like, I never thought about that. Like, you're inviting people into your house to work on something, and what if they are unsafe? You know, what if they have, you know, I don't know what their beliefs are. Not in that way, but like, I don't know if they're going to continue to be a safe person. I don't know if they're going to see what my house looks like and like not like what they see. And then do they want to do something? Are they going to come back? Are they going to be like, oh, we found, you know, I don't know. But I think by us as queer entrepreneurs and queer leaders, if we're able to help create this new queer world, if we're able to help our queer siblings and have a more thriving queer community, we can better have businesses that support the things we also support. I would much rather work with somebody who's going to spend money supporting queer causes. I'd rather work with somebody who donates money to actual queer advocacy and nonprofit groups than somebody who might be donating to the opposite, especially if I have a choice. And also the only way I would know I have a choice is if the business, you know, told me that, if the business said that was one of their values. Otherwise, I might think I have to just go with the person who's closest. Yeah, so a couple other questions there. What other identities? So sports, arts, music, hobbies, leisure. What do they do for fun? Role models. Where do they hang out? And, you know, what are their core beliefs? These are questions on today's worksheet. And the main goal is for you to be able to say, these are the kind of people that I want to serve. And these are the kind of people that I can best serve. And you might have to take the sheet and have two separate ones, right? So you might have one for, I'm going to go back to the finance, I'll go to the travel, right? One to the people who want to have the all-inclusive luxury experiences, cruises, all-inclusive resorts. And then you might have people who want to have the spontaneous, I want to go to a new country overseas, that kind of thing, right? Those are two types of people. And maybe you do this worksheet twice. So one for that and one for the other. So it's thinking about, how can I focus on the person I want to serve best? Because tomorrow we're going to talk specifically about marketing and messaging. And actually tomorrow's is going to be called Pride in Our Presentation. So by having answers to these questions, we'll be able to take from each part and say, here's the type of person that I serve, that I can best serve. Here are the problems I know they have. Here are some of the things they like and the places they might live. And then here's my offer. right? And yesterday we talked about the problems that it solves and the outcomes it can provide. And you can say, here's an outcome that is that a specific person would want. And here's how it touches them on these 3 different levels. And now, what message do we say? It makes it so much easier to make that message when we have these different viewpoints. Otherwise, our message is going to be very high level and just a step back. What does it say? I might take my LGBTQ clients on mission trips, but want to make sure that we're safe in the space where we want to help. Yeah, that's important. And that's like knowing where you want to go. That's knowing that environment. And sometimes similar to knowing that environment, you have to know the people. Knowing the environments that the people are wanting to go to. You know, some people don't do so well in hot climates or temperatures or spaces. They might need a more temperate place to go to. How do we keep our people safe? We have to know who they are and what they're going to do, what we want to do, what they like to do. I think that's a great idea about mission trips and finding ways to do it. And when you say that, like my mind goes to like church type people, but also there are lots of people who are interested in service and volunteering, and depending on how you're helping, you know, if you're building a school or building an orphanage, there are people who care about those specific causes. And you might even, by knowing that, and you want to find people who want to join you on that mission trip or find other people to support that mission trip, right? It's something very similar to this. Like, what are the beliefs that we're tapping into? What are the identities that they have that make them want to serve? You know, when they are serving, what are the changes they want to see that they make in the world, in that environment, in that community? So yeah, so that is what we have for today. That is what we have for today. So I guess 2 questions. My first question is there anything you've learned today, or something that stood out from today's training or earlier in the week? I forgot to ask that question throughout the days. So that's gonna be question 1. And then question 2, as always, is do you have any questions for me? As you looked at that homework sheet, as you clicked it, were there any questions for that, or also for any of the homeworks from the previous 2 days? I think the slides that I've been providing have some important, having a niche is important, as well, like knowing your customer needs. Yeah. And those 2 work well, like hand in hand. Because again, the needs of a retired person and the needs of a recent college graduate are different. The same thing would be different. The same product would have to be told 2 different ways for those people. I used a bonus idea earlier today when I had lunch when someone working in a similar space. Awesome. And each really touches today. We need to figure that out. I'm happy that I'm able to serve and that people are able to learn. And I look forward to seeing how you did things in the worksheets. For as you post them, I may have made a comment on it. I know in the LinkedIn group there were some posts, and I made some comments about some of the answers to the questions, just to help go a little bit deeper. Because yeah, like for any of the things that our businesses do, there's not just one problem. You know, we're not solving, even if we were solving one problem, there's probably other problems that are there. If people have better financial information, we're not just solving their retirement, but we're solving their, you know, what they get to give to their kids, what they get to give to the next generation. We're helping them know who they get to donate, how much more money they have to donate. We're helping them know like how they can better show up in the world, how they can connect to their other values. There are lots of problems that we solve. And I just want us to be inspired to be like, yes, we can solve, we may not be able to solve all of them, but we can solve some of them. and we can solve some for some people easier than others. And that's how we grow. That's how we grow. So thank you all for being here today. It does not look like there are any questions at the moment. So I will be saying goodbye for today. And yeah, I am glad for this. And then I guess the one last thing I will be saying is if you've taken anything good from this, tomorrow I am going to talk about how we can keep going further, how we can work together on some level. Yeah. And tomorrow we'll be talking about specifically pride in your presentation, because that's every day have to have like the alliteration on the piece. So pride in your presentation. Oh, and one last thing. So when we think about our people, I think people can only do what they believe they can do. So today's shirt, oh no, says believe in yourself, and it's like an alien who's sitting there. And I think sometimes the people we serve need us to believe in them, especially if it's some of these more service-based things, right? We need to believe in the people who can share their opinion to change democracy, to like have an effect on that. We need to believe in the people who are working and wanting to have a better financial status so that they can do more in the world, serve more in the world, contribute more in the world. We need people to know that here's how you can travel safely around the world. You can experience creativity, adventure, connection in a way that is cost-effective and safe and fun, right? So we need to help them believe in themselves and help them believe in the thing that we are offering them, because we see them, we care about them, and we can help them believe in us too. So hope you had a good time today. Tomorrow is day 4. And I am excited to, finish this week out. As always, you can just send me a message if you have any questions. And if you post in any of the groups, I will definitely be looking so that I can connect with you and support in other ways. So thanks for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.